When people think about America's main rifle of World War I, most immediately picture the legendary M1903 Springfield. But what if I told you that the rifle carried by the majority of American soldiers in the Great War wasn't the Springfield at all? It was the powerful, rugged, and often overlooked M1917 Enfield, the true backbone of the American Expeditionary Forces in Europe. To understand how this rifle became America's primary battle weapon in 1917 and 1918, we need to go back before the United States even entered World War I. The story actually begins in Britain. Before the war, the British were developing a new rifle called the pattern 1914 Enfield, originally designed for a high-velocity .276 cartridge. However, when World War I erupted in 1914, Britain simplified production and chambered it in the standard .303 British round instead. Massive wartime demand meant British factories couldn't keep up, so production contracts were sent to American manufacturers. Three major U.S. companies stepped in: Winchester Repeating Arms Company, Remington Arms, and Eddystone Rifle Plant. These factories tooled up to produce the pattern 1914 for Britain. Then, in April 1917, everything changed. The United States entered World War I. America suddenly needed millions of rifles, fast. The problem: production of the Springfield at government arsenals simply could not meet the scale required for a rapidly expanding army. Rather than retool entirely new production lines, the U.S. government made a smart and practical decision: adapt the already produced British pattern 1914 rifle to fire the American .3006 cartridge. With modifications to the chamber, extractor, and sights, the M1917 Enfield was born. And it quickly became America's most issued rifle of the war. By the end of World War I, approximately 2.2 million M1917 rifles had been produced. In fact, around two-thirds of American soldiers in France carried this rifle, not the Springfield. That alone reshapes how we think about U.S. infantry in the Great War. So what made the M1917 Enfield special? First, its design. The rifle was a bolt-action, chambered in the powerful .3006 Springfield cartridge, the same round used by the Springfield rifle and later by the iconic M1 Garand in World War II. It featured a 26-inch barrel, giving it excellent muzzle velocity and long-range performance. We're talking effective engagement distances of 500 yards and beyond in trained hands. One of the most noticeable features of the M1917 was its distinctive rear sight system. Instead of the traditional open rear sight found on the Springfield, the Enfield used a robust rear aperture sight mounted on the receiver bridge. This gave soldiers a longer sight radius and improved accuracy under battlefield conditions. Many shooters then, and even modern collectors today, argue that the M1917's sighting system was superior to that of the Springfield. Another advantage was its 6-round internal magazine. While the Springfield held 5 rounds, the M1917 held 6 in a staggered box magazine, loaded via stripper clips. It may seem like a small difference, but in the chaos of trench warfare, one extra round before reloading could matter. The rifle was also known for its strength. Its action was extremely robust, capable of handling high pressures safely. In fact, many custom gunsmiths later used surplus M1917 actions as the foundation for powerful sporting rifles because of how durable the design was. However, it wasn't perfect. The rifle was heavier than the Springfield, weighing about 9.2 pounds unloaded. That extra weight made long marches more exhausting. It also had a somewhat awkward, cock-on closing, bolt system, meaning the firing pin was cocked when pushing the bolt forward, rather than when lifting it. Some soldiers preferred this system for smoother extraction under mud and trench grime, while others disliked the additional forward resistance. Still, reliability in muddy trench conditions was critical. The Western Front was a nightmare of waterlogged trenches, thick mud, and constant artillery bombardment. Weapons had to function in the worst imaginable environments. The M1917 earned a reputation for rugged dependability, and that's exactly what soldiers needed. Perhaps one of the most famous moments involving the M1917 Enfield came from one of America's greatest war heroes, Alvin York. During the Meuse-Argonne Offensive in October 1918, York and a small group of American soldiers found themselves behind enemy lines facing German machine gun nests. Armed with his M1917 rifle and later switching to his sidearm when necessary, York reportedly killed over 20 enemy soldiers and captured more than 100 others. For his extraordinary bravery and marksmanship, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. And yes, he did it with the M1917 Enfield. By the time the war ended in November 1918, the M1917 had proven itself as America's primary combat rifle. Yet strangely, it never received the same legendary recognition as the Springfield or later the M1 Garand. After World War I, many M1917 rifles were placed into storage. Some were issued to reserve units. Others were sold as surplus to civilians. When World War II began, the rifle saw limited service again, particularly with training units, Home Guard forces, and Allied nations through Lend-Lease programs. Interestingly, many M1917 rifles were also provided to Britain early in World War II when the British desperately needed arms after evacuating from Dunkirk. In a twist of history, a rifle originally designed for Britain, modified for America, ended up going back to Britain once again. Collectors today highly value original M1917 rifles, especially those in good condition with matching parts. Because they were produced by 3 different manufacturers, you'll often see markings from Winchester, Remington, or Eddystone. Eddystone produced the largest number of rifles, making their examples more common, while Winchester versions are typically more sought after by collectors. From a shooting perspective, many enthusiasts still enjoy firing the M1917. Its strong action, solid accuracy, and classic World War I heritage make it a favorite among historic firearms collectors. When properly maintained, it remains a capable and accurate rifle even by modern standards. So why does the M1917 Enfield matter today? Because it represents adaptability. When America entered World War I unprepared for the scale of industrial warfare, it didn't cling to tradition. It adapted. It took an existing foreign design, modified it efficiently, and produced millions in record time. That decision armed the rapidly expanding American Expeditionary Forces and helped tip the balance on the Western Front. It also represents the industrial might of the United States. The ability of American factories to rapidly switch production, standardize components, and deliver over 2 million rifles in less than 2 years demonstrated the power that would later define America's role in global conflicts. And finally, it reminds us that history often overlooks the quiet workhorse. The Springfield may get more attention. The M1 Garand may be called the greatest battle implement ever devised. But in the muddy trenches of 1918 France, the rifle most American doughboys carried into combat was the M1917 Enfield. It was there in the Meuse-Argonne. It was there in the final pushes against entrenched German positions. It was there in the hands of ordinary soldiers who crossed no man's land under artillery fire. The M1917 wasn't glamorous. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was reliable, powerful, and available in the numbers that mattered. And in war, sometimes that's what truly counts. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of America's most underrated World War I rifles, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more detailed military history content. Let me know in the comments, would you choose the Springfield or the M1917 if you were an American soldier in 1918?